This is a show about finding solutions to real issues this country is facing today. We have no political agenda. We are not about fault or blame. Instead, we want to create a safe place we can come to the middle and talk about ways we can all work together to create positive change.
You're at The In-Between with Donna Martini.
Good morning. You're at The In. I'm Donna Martini, and today we're going to explore the unknown again. In my effort to get more people in tune with their spiritual selves, I'm doing a bit of a series on the metaphysical and psychic phenomena. With me today is first and foremost a friend. Secondly, a fellow coach and author. Thirdly, in a class all by herself, she is a psychic phenomena. And in a little while, we're going to find out how she came into that. Let's call it power and knowingness. And it was during the 9/11 attack, by the way. But right now, join me in welcoming Karen Garvey.
Hi, Donna. It's really good to be here. I get to see you, actually.
Yeah, right. We always see each other on Facebook. That's about it. I always read your stuff every morning. You're in my feed. And so I'm always happy. And sometimes we actually do write about the same thing in a day.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yes.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Of course we do.
Right. Because whatever is going on in the universe, we're kind of picking up on it, right?
Right.
And it's a long time coming, to be honest, us working together, because we've never worked together with me not being your like student or your coaching client. So this is kind of fun.
Yes.
And instead of me seeking information about my own life, past lives, or a spiritual state of being, we're going to really explore the other side. Let's call it a door, because that's what you have portrayed in one of your books, right?
Yes.
So what's on the other side of that door? So tell us about that, because that's basically what your business and what yourself and what you're talking and speaking and writing is all about.
All right. Fundamentally, I think anybody that experiences even their first awakening, however large or small it is, what they're doing is they're shifting from what was taught to us and going back to a sense of knowingness of what we knew before we were born. So I look at it as a door, because the door can stay closed your whole entire life. But in most cases, there's a little glimmer, at least at some point in one's life, where you open up that door and you peek into, let's say, like the non-physical knowledge that you have access to without earthly means.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So if you didn't have a human body, you'd know everything.
Absolutely.
And so as soon as you get into the human body, meaning you come here, you're now trying to experience life as a soulful, spiritual / human self.
Yes.
And so it adds up all of the years of learning the wrong thing or dealing with maybe abuse or anger or other people's emotions. Or erroneous teachings, basically.
And this is a realm. Earth is a realm for the discovery of the soul. So it actually makes sense that we forget what we knew when we were born, because we have to engage in the process in order to experience the growth. If you always know what to expect and how to navigate everything that comes your way, then there really won't be any discoveries made. So I term it earth amnesia, that we forget what we knew when we were born.
That's
and part of the goal is to, go back and remember some of that stuff and get the natural access to optimism, love, joy, freedom, and so on that we can attune to when we get rid of our earthly baggage.
And it makes sense, too, because I think all of our masters that we've heard about over the ages, from Buddha, Jesus, and they all had a time before they came out to be masters. I mean, they must have been doing something prior to that besides growing up. They were learning and growing, I would assume, and building on those skills.
Yes. I think a lot of people who at some point decide to be of value to others in sharing what they've discovered once that door is open, I think they do a lot of observing earlier in life and doing, their own personal determinations about are their senses real? This sense beyond earthly senses, how accurate is it and how valuable is it? So rather than just coming out right off the bat as soon as you know something, there's this decision almost to say, what have I learned being a person, and what am I getting through this channel or this connection? Are they in sync? Do they support each other? And can they be partners?
We're probably the only animals that doubt our instincts.
Yes. Oh, I think I just wrote about that in my
You're kidding.
monthly newsletter.
Okay, so we know we're in tune. We know we're in tune.
Yeah, last month, I think.
Listeners are going to have a great time today. You have to stay tuned, because if that truly came into my head, and I know that Karen's very powerful, energetically speaking, so between the two of us, we should be able to get a lot of key points today for everybody to help them. So you're the author of what I can tell 5 books now?
5 books, yes.
Okay. And so you're a speaker as well, and you do radio, you do blog, you do everything. So what is your primary talk about? What is your verbiage usually? Where is it steering people?
Basically, it is to open up your intuition and see it as a more reliable resource for your own decision making than the intellect or analytical reasoning. We're very enamored with the intellect and logic. So it's to say that's a good supporting mechanism.
Right.
But if we shift more to the conduit, which is intuition, then you have a better basis for making choices, understanding your life, helping you to navigate circumstances as they come your way. And once you are able to attune more, and people are confused by what intuition itself really means. So I do have a definition of that. But when you do attune more, that's when you find that you become happier, you live in less chaos. I think if people knew that a byproduct of being more intuitive was having less chaos on your doorstep, I think a lot more people would be incentivized to figure out how to get it done and get it done now. Okay?
Right.
But
Well, they
intuition,
could tell the difference between what they're hearing in their human head versus
Yes.
what they're hearing from their soul voice. One makes
Yes.
you really happy. The other one pretty much makes you confused or scared or angry or
Yes.
judgmental or whatever else. It's
Right.
very easy to actually to decipher between the two.
Yeah, but only if we're encouraged and taught that.
Sure.
And our society we're getting closer to teaching that and encouraging it. But
Well, there are many
we still have a
businesses
long
now
way to
who
go.
are bringing people in like you or like myself to teach that, which is really awesome because if they're learning it in their job, we can teach 100 people at a time. They're
Yes.
bringing it home.
Right. No doubt.
And their
No doubt.
businesses will run better. And they'll also run with more goodness, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll all
I
benefit from
started out with a business career. I have an MBA. So one of the kind of nice crossovers that I get to do is communicate with a lot of people that have a spiritual slant to what it is that they're doing or receiving or contributing. But I get to still speak in everyday corporations and businesses and help people to understand. It's nice because I started 10 years ago and there are things that I wouldn't say at a corporate event.
Now you can.
Now I can.
You can say whatever you want.
I can say
Karen.
whatever I want now.
I hate to say the word, but screw it. Like we know,
Absolutely.
because we know where people are led and guided. After this many years of doing it, we know that the dialogue that we have with them, when they open up to this, their lives change exponentially and
Yes.
beautifully.
Yes.
So why would we hold back just because society is not accepting of a
Yes.
few words? It's just crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. And on that note, let's come back to the in-between. I'm with Karen Garvey, a very special friend, very talented, gifted person. And we're going to do a little fun thing today on the in-between.
Okay.
We're going to ask Karen a true or false, but it's really her opinion that we're seeking and what she believes. And you could say no, you can say yes, Karen. You can add to it, you can change it, you can modify it because it's all about you today. I share a lot of your same beliefs, so this is going to be an easy day for me. So are you willing to play this little thing that we do for
Totally.
our listeners?
As long as there's no dare at the end.
There's no dare, and there's absolutely no right or wrong.
No, I know that.
It's truly just your belief system. So this is the universe according to Karen, but because I will be adding my perspective, there will as well be a universe according to Karen and Donna and how we perceive and what we hear,
Right.
how we intuitively hear. Okay,
Right.
All right. So true or false? Everyone has psychic ability.
True.
Absolutely believe that, don't you?
Yes,
We have to.
without a
We're all
doubt.
made the same. So how could we
Yes.
not?
Without
But
a
we have
doubt.
some people who are just not listening or in
Yes.
tune.
Or we're culturally programmed to ignore it and see it as something that's woo-woo or kind of airy-fairy. It's a matter of just remembering that it's there and having confidence that it's of value so you can rediscover that it's available.
Wouldn't it be great if kids started learning about it early on as intuition, at least the
Totally.
word intuition, because imagine they could build on it because they have it so much better when they're young
Yes.
than they're taught, and then they're taught actually to go against what they're sensing.
Yes. No doubt. No doubt. Children have an innate ability to see more than it is that they can see through their physical senses. And I like playing games with kids that they don't even realize they're playing intuitive games, but it keeps them connected and it makes them very excited when they can know something or know the answer. And that's one of the ways to just keep strengthening that muscle. If society is weakening the muscle, there are definitely ways we can strengthen those muscles in our children.
Absolutely. And if they're taught young, too, to understand that they can feel other people's energy and feel other people's emotions, I don't think we'd have as many drug issues. I don't think we'd have as many children with all kinds of self-medicating situations from food all the way down, because I think that they're taking on a lot that they don't realize they're in tune with someone else.
Yeah. There's that could be a 1-hour show just on
we
its
are.
own.
We're doing it. We're actually doing it. Maybe I'll invite you back. I do have someone who's coming on as a special for that.
Okay.
And we call it empathy,
Okay.
right?
Right.
That's basically the term. And everybody has that as well, but some
Yes.
people are stronger in that sense
Yes.
than others.
Yeah. I work with a lot of, in general, I'll work one-on-one with maybe someone that's 15 or older, but I get to see generationally how what happens in everyday experiences, how it affects different age groups based on their peer set, what their education system was like, what their world was like during their early formative years. And I can say that people who are, there's no absolute on the cutoff, but let's say people who are like 31 and under right now, they have been subjected to more adult fear on a day-to-day basis. And when you're subjected to fear, it quiets your ability to have faith in the safety and well-being of yourself and the world around you. So fear becomes more of the lens through which reality is seen. And that is a big problem for why a lot of the younger people are experiencing increased anxiety, drug use, and so on. I'd love to fundamentally be able to reach that audience and try to strip away those fears and give them confidence again that the world in which they live is a reflection of how they're feeling and their own energy, their beliefs, their actions, their thoughts, and get them back to a state of empowerment.
Well, I just wrote a book called My Mini Book of Mighty Mantras, and that's exactly what the book does, and it's geared towards high school and college. But I think because of the way I structured it, it would be absolutely perfect for even junior high school, because I can bring it down to a different level if I wanted to, and it's all about the powers we do have.
Yes.
And how we can perceive and how we can manipulate our own thoughts
Good
or
for you.
emotions
That's
based
excellent.
based on what we know is truth, and trying to bring more of the science and spirituality, which I know you've been trying to do
Yes.
for a long
Yes.
time.
Yes.
I think that's one of the purposes why I'm here, to be honest, because that was something that I was always interested in, always understanding. Even though I don't understand anything about most things, I understood concepts like that before I could really see the truth in evidence. And now with quantum physics, right?
Yes.
We get to really say, wow, I knew that, but I didn't know why I knew that. Now I
Yes.
do.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Okay, true or false? There is no such thing as time as we know it,
True.
right?
True. Yeah, one of the great things that I have the ability to do, which I love, and I get a lot of information from it, is to really disconnect from the human level of consciousness and return to the state of consciousness that we are all residing in, even while we have bodies and certainly before we take on a body. And in that experience, it's an adjustment, but to be in a state of timelessness and to perceive reality without that context of linear sequence and so on, then you really start to understand that the concept of time is learned. It's important that we have a linear understanding and the sequencing, because it's a fantastic tool for the soul's development. It makes us prioritize. It makes us be accountable for our choices. And that doesn't mean to put pressure on us and make us hyper responsible for the use of our time in every minute. But what it does mean is that if we see sequence, we see cause and we see effect, then we understand the consequence of the energy that we project, because it echoes back to us over time.
Well, then you already got one of the true or falses already. You already
Of course.
answered one. Because the question was, the past and the future can be affected in the present moment.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I have an online program called Happy in 90. And what I've done is I've taken my 10 years worth of work and I've put it into 12 modules to help people. You can learn to be happy. You don't have to be in whatever state of unhappiness or disempowerment you might be at the moment. And even if you are happy, you can still become happier. But one of the things that I have guides, right? I'm never doing anything alone here. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we focus on in it is exactly that, how to reimagine and reinterpret your past so that it has value, regardless of how difficult it was, no matter how much pain you believe that you are carrying forward. It's to take a look at it from a new perspective and go through exercises and techniques so that it can become something where the energy you're pulling forward has value and benefit, because in this second now, your interpretation and the synthesis of the view of your own childhood is part of the energy basis for what you project into the future.
Absolutely. So every day.
So resolving it and coming to peace with it helps you to actually have a happier future just by energy alone.
Absolutely. It's what we teach here, too, at the in-between, and understanding that. In addition to trying to find the place in between opinions and knowingness versus education and everything else. It's a place where we can come to in this moment and say, okay, but what do we really want? We want to love. We want to be peaceful. Where can we go from here instead of constantly concentrating on the past? And you know that what we're doing in this country nonstop is talking about everything that just happened maybe even a week ago,
Yes.
a year ago, a month ago, and
hour
never
ago.
really concluding or getting anything accomplished
Yes.
in the future. It's
Right.
just repeating itself and repeating itself. Okay, true or false? Love is an energy as well as an emotion that we were born to live in, experience, and generate.
Yes.
And anything to add
True.
to that?
True. Of course.
Good.
You know, there's a reason that we say love is all there is, love is the answer, all you need is love. Because I see virtually everything in our experiences in the human and in the non-human realms to be about the vibration of love. The journey is to try to vibrate at that vibration. So anything we're feeling that's in discord is a separation to some degree from the vibration of love. That's what it all boils down to. Hate is the absence of love. Fear is the absence of love. They don't have energy on their own. That
It's like
gives
we
you an
measure- it's
opportunity.
the same way we measure, we don't measure really heat, we measure the absence of cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly, and that's
Or
the
darkness
analogy
and
that I
light.
use, darkness and light.
Sure. I think, who's the one who first said it? Was it Martin Luther? No, somebody before Martin Luther said there is no such way to measure darkness, just the absence of light. And then it went on to love and hate, which is, I think, the easiest way for regular people who are not in tune with that kind of information. The easiest way to understand, if I'm not turning on my heart light, it means that there's no love there. So if I turn on my heart light, I can actually influence the situation right now by putting love on it.
Yes, yes.
And immediately,
Definitely.
right, and immediately it becomes a totally different situation. And sometimes we sit around and wait for something to unfold, for the situation to take on a life of its own, like it's going to change on its own, instead of taking action, even ethereally or emotionally, in our body or in our mind, and saying, no, this isn't the outcome I want. I want something beautiful. I want a symbiotic outcome. And all of a sudden, boom, energy changes between you and the other person, and we get to experience.
Just by flipping that
Just
switch.
flipping that switch. I call it a switch, too, because it's that simple.
Yes,
It's
it
like the
is.
light versus darkness mentality. I don't want to go to the next question because it's going to be too good, and I want to save it. We have a lot more to talk about, so I think that we're going to continue with these questions though, because they're pretty good, right?
Oh, they are
I did a
good.
good job, right, Karen?
True.
I'm not looking for all the accolades today, but I do want everyone to understand where we're coming from. Karen and I have been in the same type of industry for a long time, and we don't really get to talk about our beliefs, but we know they're so similar, which means that we're hearing from very similar guides.
Yes.
So make sure you stay tuned to WCWP.org. I'm Donna Martini. We're at the In-Between, and we'll be right back.
You're at The In-Between with Donna Martini.
You are listening to Donna Martini at WCWP.org, and I am here with Karen Garvey. Karen, what do you call yourself?
That's been a challenge to find the exact words.
Oh boy, I have the same issue.
Yeah. It's really a challenge. We don't have enough language to describe spirituality or spiritual wisdom. The term I've been using lately, because I think it's the most accurate, is conduit to universal knowledge.
Okay, so conduit is a word I hear as well. I do hear that word. I also hear luminary.
Okay.
So the idea that we can help people turn on their own light or understand where it is, tap into it all the time. Maybe they sometimes do, but not all the time. But conduit, I think, is a great word. I don't like the word channel for whatever reason.
I don't care for the word channel or psychic or medium, or there's so many words out there that are very limited and oftentimes misperceived. So finding new language is part of the journey here.
I think you're right. I think conduit is a word that I've been hearing. Now, I
Okay.
was in the construction industry, so I know the difference between a conduit and a channel. And I believe that, if we can bridge a gap for someone, even if it's temporarily because they have a block and they can't hear their own soul voice, that's basically all we're doing at that moment is really facilitating.
That's exactly it.
Right?
That's why, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I also hear the word guide because I liken it to a guide dog. And someone, if you were to understand a blind man who wanted to get to the drugstore, the guide dog doesn't take the blind man where the guide dog wants to go. It takes the person where he wants to go, or she wants to go. And it would only take that person at the rate of speed they can handle. You wouldn't see a guide dog dragging a blind man to the streets of Manhattan at 20 miles an hour. So by basically being someone's helper in this way, we
Yes.
can't do what we want to do. We can't
Yes.
say what we want to say.
Yes.
We have to be that guide and help them to maybe unblock.
Yeah, definitely. Even in coaching, guides are not going to give people definitive answers. What they do is they make suggestions based on what they know about that client in any given moment, suggestions that can help them move from the path that they're on to a path that will bring them more happiness. And it's not a difficult thing for guides to do because they really do understand us better than we understand ourselves, because they don't have the human baggage or misperceptions that are clouding their perception of who we are in human form. And the goal is to help each of us have the happiest, most fulfilling lives that we can and get rid of the misbeliefs and the baggage and the masks and the layers that we've accumulated along the way.
Right.
Guide is a wonderful word for all of those reasons.
As I always say, we don't journey to our authentic selves, we journey back.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'd like to say remember. We're remembering, not learning.
Right.
We are remembering.
Right. And able to experience it too. We need to experience even negative in order to feel the positive, right? You need the contrast, I believe.
At some point we can outgrow that.
Yeah, but during the process, maybe that's the problem. People think they shouldn't be going through. There's no such thing as having to go through suffering. But if you're born and then you go through a certain life, and
yes,
you
exactly.
need to
It's to take
yeah.
the negative that you experience while you're young and use it as a fuel to transform your comprehension, to understand the values and the benefits that you got from it and transform it into something that's a fuel and a power.
Right.
One thing that I really like to bust myths that we have, and we have a lot of myths, and as long as we unite through a false premise, then we're going to continue to move that energy forward, and it's disempowering.
Well, do you find that on Facebook every time you see a poster with somebody's 1,000 likes on it, and it's something that you think is completely the wrong direction? I always have to try to show another side. And I don't do it in a negative way. I try not to. But I do hear things and feel things and know things on an intrinsic level, and I can't sit still sometimes because I feel like so many people are taking that wrong aspect and running with it, thinking that it's gold, that it's real. And as a coach, I find it difficult to sit in my in my space without trying to help and show another side.
Okay. I follow you. But the myth that I'm talking about that I do like to bust is the idea that we need to have pain in order to grow. Mm-hmm. When we start to accept the idea that we can have positive experiences and great happenings in order to experience more awakenings, more growth, more understanding, more joy, we can stop focusing on who's the most down and out in the moment and giving all of our attention to them. Why not support people who have learned how to become happy as well and celebrate the understanding of what it is that they did to achieve that state? If that's what it is we all want, why are we turning to those who haven't achieved it to model our own thoughts and actions after? So I say bust the myth that negativity is the only pathway to growth and awakening or enlightenment, and say that we can grow by choice with intention from great experiences, from happiness, from love, from celebrating, from joy, from awe, from wonder.
Absolutely, but there are people before they get to that point of understanding that they have gone through trauma, and now they've said that, if it wasn't for my illness, I don't think I would have ever learned this. And I'm like one of those people. Unfortunately, I didn't know there was another way at the moment back then.
That's exactly why it's important to put a different perspective out there. So
but,
that it
to be honest, though, there was
become...
circumstances that came, and I understand what you're saying, but we live in a world where it's not all perfect, so there's going to be things that are happening. And before you understand it, if we came here and we knew it all, and we were young, we wouldn't need to be here, I think. I think it's the journey here of learning or re-remembering, as you said, and I agree with you. But at a certain point, there's things that are going on, and we know there's so much negativity in the world that we deal with. Everything from, oh my gosh, pedophiles, people who are stealing our children, people are selling them, on the black market. We have so much going on. If it's a young child and you don't have the information or the understanding, and something happens to you, and now you move forward. And I coach this, so many people who have had sexual abuse in their past. So now what do we do? Of course, we can't undo that incident. But we certainly
point
can
is
undo
not
the way
that
they
there is
feel.
not negativity or not accepting that it exists. The point is that it's to stop encouraging people to believe that's the only path to awakening. And I'm
No,
talking
I
about
agree.
from the
No, I
now and for
absolutely
the future.
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm saying that when someone's in it, to
And
be able to
there's-
say that just because I lived 2 years of misery doesn't mean that I'm not a happy person and I'm not a great person and I'm not spiritually blessed, and
absolutely
I can't
not.
change that.
No,
I can
no,
change that.
definitely
I can
not.
change the way I
Definitely
perceive
not.
it. I can change how I grew from it.
Right.
And I know that I came here with love, a lot of love and understanding. But I have gained so much through every hardship, and I didn't ask for the hardship. I didn't realize I attracted it, which I'm sure I did, but I didn't get that up until a certain point. I didn't come here knowing everything yet. But so I try to change people's opinion, and that's what I do as a coach. I don't let them keep talking about the past in a negative way. They have to come to me. They can go to their therapist for that. But to me, when they come to me, I'm trying to help them see a new path.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that.
Right. So
about reimagining and finding the benefit in our past. So the point is that we all have our life experiences, but if collectively we start a conversation that we can grow from positivity, then we can start people on the path of growing from the positive and having that be an expectation. An expectation is a target board. If the expectation is that growth will only come from negativity, then from this moment on in our future experiences, we're going to have more negative as
I think we're saying the
catalyst.
same thing. I'm just saying that when it's happened already, this is where we need to go.
Absolutely.
I don't think that we
Absolutely.
need. I don't think we
there's
need
no
drama
doubt.
and trauma. And I certainly, I've sat in church sermons where we're supposed to that struggle is good. That all this. No, I don't buy into it at all. I don't think we're supposed to come here to suffer. Suffering is not.
Yes.
But what if we have until we learned and understood what life was really about and understood how to use our own energy and our gifts, then we might have suffered. But up until this point now, we can change that dialogue and say, oh my gosh, I went through that, but here's what I actually discovered, and look at how far I've come.
Yes,
and to
I
feel the
know that I
restoration
can
in that.
continue to
Exactly.
grow through the intention to be awake and to learn and to discover from the positive. Even having that intention can turn a life around from this moment on.
Right. And let's face it, too, like this moment in time, are we all supposed to be teachers? We're supposed to be helping other people with what we've learned. But there are teachers who know, there are masters, as we call them, and then there are people who don't know yet. And they're seeking a master to teach them that. So until then, we get into a lot of trouble.
A lot.
We get into a lot. You're listening to The In-Between with Donna Martini. I'm with Karen Garvey. You're at WCWP.org in case you've just tuned in. We're doing a true or false, so we're barely getting through it because there's so much to talk about. And we're going to be also going over, I really want you to talk about your story. So this is a good time for you to tell us how you came into this knowingness, wisdom, and everything else that you speak about.
All right. So basically, I did have a pretty rough childhood, and I had a lot of pain that I brought into adulthood. There was some innate part of me that thought that I learned to do everything that I had ever achieved in my life through education or learning or observing, and I figured I could learn to be happy too. So I had kind of set that intention unknowingly to make that choice. But what changed for me, I was working in business. I have an MBA. I had a good career. And at the end of the 90s, I had my own business, and I would run a few mornings a week before I started working. And on the morning of
jogging,
right, go out for a run. And on the morning of 9/11, 2001, when I returned from my running, I was punching the key code in to get the garage door to go up. I experienced what was happening at the World Trade Center as it was unfolding.
Meanwhile, you did not know anything about
Absolutely
this on your way
not.
out the door in the morning.
No, it was about 5 to 9 at the moment. And I live an hour from Manhattan, so I didn't obviously have any physical clues about what was going on. So I turned the TV on. Someone was ringing my phone at that exact minute. So I turned the TV on because that was suggested. So I was able to see immediately the link between what I experienced in the driveway and what was really happening, that I was simultaneously experiencing that attack. When I was listening to the broadcaster, I also became aware that I knew more than the broadcaster knew. So I knew I had this body of understanding or comprehension that went beyond what I should have been able to attune to by any means. And of course, we all had adjustments and, new perceptions come to us after 9/11. That was inevitable. But one of my takeaways that day was it was my first experience understanding that my consciousness is not connected to my body. And for me, having gone through, the academic route and valuing my logic and analytical reasoning throughout my whole life, I needed to have a visceral, experiential understanding that our consciousness, exactly. I could read a book if someone had given me one about how our souls are connected to. Right. It's not going to. No, what a pretty story. Oh, you're so sweet. But when it happens to me, that's different. Then I know it. And you can't unknow something like that. So it completely changed my trajectory, and it made me very, very curious about the meaning of life, why we're here, how we intersect, how things unfold. And so over a very, very, very long period of time, I learned to focus. I learned how to open up this conduit as a two-way street, not just receiving bolts of lightning at random, which is what happened after 9/11, and to make it conversational so that I could connect with consciousness that's non-physical to help explain and explore the mysteries of what we're experiencing on Earth in the context of what is the meaning of life and how can we make this work for us in a better way.
Sure, absolutely. So, just out of curiosity, how was it playing out in your mind that day? What were you seeing that wasn't being revealed? Was there an underlying kind of energy, or you don't rather not say?
Well, I think one of the, first of all, I knew a little bit more of the facts than the broadcaster knew. Mm-hmm. So he was stating at the moment when I turned it on just that there was a small plane that got off target. I knew that it was beyond that. I knew it was planned. I knew that it was just the beginning as well. Mm-hmm. And I had this kind of nutty understanding that it was the beginning of a shift. The beginning of a shift. And, even when I say the beginning of a shift, we all know that there is no one deciding moment, that a shift begins months before, years before, decades before, and it continues after. But if you can define a moment when people become clear that we're entering into a new phase of the human experience, that was a definable moment. And so I had a comprehension of that.
And it was, to me, during the process, the discernment came when I noticed everyone sharing so much love.
Yes.
It was palpable. You could feel it. And I loved it. And I remember the television station reporting about how there's such low crime in the New York metro area. And the account was that because all the criminals are watching television. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. It was love. Don't you get that? And it was clear as day to me.
I agree.
That it was.
And we see the best of humanity during crises. And anybody's supposition that people are innately bad, it's wrong.
No,
That's a learned perspective, and it's not true at all.
I believe that we're all inherently good.
Yes.
We might be disconnected from our soul voice, I believe. And I'm not sure to what degree we can be all the way, or whether there could be a human body without a soul. I don't know. That's never been really clear to me. I suppose we could call that person an alien, right? but yeah, so I believe that if we appeal to the goodness, we might be the only person, if we're with someone who's really in a negative state, they might not be able to see their own soul if not through us. If we don't tap in and try to, love them, how could they ever, what would they grab onto? There's nothing there. So, true or false? There have been many children, adults as well as adults as well over the centuries that have uncannily been able to recant past incidents that they could not have prior knowledge of, making a strong argument for the probability that the souls that we possess do reincarnate.
True.
Yeah, it's awesome. No doubt. And I asked that question because this is one of your strengths.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Talk to us about it.
All right. Well, a couple of things that happen that make my circumstances a little bit unique is that because I did value the intellect so highly when I began the process of learning how to open up this conduit, I didn't turn to anybody, not a book or a source or a mentor or a teacher, and learning in isolation. I tried to take as scientific of an approach as possible. It was tedious, and honestly, it was filled with so much agony and so much ecstasy, high and low, up and down. But the good news was that because I didn't have a mentor or a teacher, I wasn't taught anybody else's
Version
limits.
of it, yes.
And not being taught someone else's limits, I was able to stumble upon things that consciousness can do because no one told me that I couldn't. And it's really fascinating stories about some of the things that I stumbled upon and the way that I did. But one of the things early on was that I found I can enter into people's past lives if it's relevant and has meaning and significance to something that they're experiencing today. Or, you know what, it's entertaining. So if it's fun for someone and they want to explore,
I don't know.
it
I
can
always
be,
say
it can
I
be
can
very
barely
entertaining.
handle this life, let alone a past life. That's scary to me. But you have done. I've seen you do it. And people were excited to know that they lived on a farm and they did this and they did that. And
it can be really enlightening, even something down to the power of understanding why I might have an anomalous fear of water, and then seeing a past life about an incident in which we drowned.
That could be so healing.
Yeah, it can be.
Amazingly healing. I'm sure you've seen a lot of incidents with that. That is absolutely beneficial.
I probably have recorded through clients 1,000+ verifiable stories about someone's past life experiences now.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, we're going to be right back at WCWP.org, Karen Garvey and I, and we're going to be talking more about this amazing concept of, how we're here, why we're here, and what we're supposed to be doing. So come back to the end. Stay tuned.
You're at The In-Between with Donna Martini.
Welcome back to The In-Between. I'm Donna Martini, and my guest co-host today is Karen Garvey, an intuitive coach, among many other things. And I wanted to let her know today that she actually helped me overcome a pretty big issue in my life. So do you want to hear the story?
Of course I do.
Okay, so I came to you. I don't remember. I think it was right after a breakup, and I don't remember how I reconnected you. I probably heard it in my head, call Karen.
Of course.
This is how I run my life. If I hear it in my head, I got to do it. And we spent some time on the phone, and you were able to tap into my energy, I guess, and sort of read me. And you made a suggestion. You said to me, Donna, you need to sit down on the couch and you need to make believe that your soul child, okay, I think you called it soul child, is sitting next to you, your little Donna, like when you were young.
Okay.
And you have to tell her that you love her and hold her and hug her and go on and on and on. You're saying all these things. And as you're saying this to me, I'm feeling dread because I was in such a state of low self-esteem. I did not even want to address I couldn't even think or dream of telling her I loved her. There was no connection between me and her. And right away in my head, I heard ask Karen if you can do it for the ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
And right away you said, absolutely. I've seen amazing healing things happen when people do this. You can pray or meditate on the other person's soul child. So I actually did this. And I sat in my yard on a stone in the beautiful sun, surrounded by rose bushes. And I did a meditation, and I asked for, to do this. I gave permission and everything because I didn't want to affect his soul or do anything to him that I shouldn't be doing. And I started seeing vision of him as a little boy, and he was hiding under his bed in his house. And he was hiding because his father and mother were fighting badly, and his father was doing some bad things.
Okay.
And I was a teenager. This is how it looked in my head. And I didn't know what was going on, to be honest. I just went with it as a vision. And I was led to hold him and help him and play with him outside and talk to him like a babysitter would, right? Or an older friend.
Nice.
And all of a sudden, I saw my little child appear.
Huh.
And I really didn't have much dialogue with her because I was concentrating on him. And we ended it really beautifully. And the next day, I did the same thing. Went to the same rock and decided to do another meditation. So long story short, every single time I was led to get closer and closer to my soul child. And by the fourth time, I helped him as much as I could by loving him and seeing what his childhood was like, which
Right.
also really made me want to love him unconditionally even more, even though he had lied to me, even though there were things that went on in the relationship that really were hurtful. I was committed to loving him unconditionally, and I needed to see what his childhood was like to lead him to the things that he did as an adult.
Right.
But by the fourth time, I think the gift that I got for loving him unconditionally was being led to love my own soul child. And I was put in my kitchen from when I was a little girl in a house we used to live in. And I was an older Donna talking to my younger Donna. And we hugged and we kissed and there was crying. And
Crying.
oh my
Absolutely crying.
gosh. And
Yes.
as I was sitting there, a breeze came through. And the smell of roses filled me up. It was the warmest. It was like
Wow.
angels were touching me. It was the most profound experience I have ever had in that type of, meditation process. So that was from you. So I never got to tell you because we never see each other, but this is real. And now, because of it, I teach so many people. I tell them what I did, and I said, this is how I did it, and here's what you can try to do, and let the visions come, because it'll be your experience, that will come.
Right.
The soul child work. I call it soul child work. So, and I tell everybody it's Karen Garvey. Don't give it to me the credit, because this is where I got it from. But I'll assume that is part of the process.
Yeah.
That,
It's, I don't think anybody has an optimal childhood. We all have things that we can recover from, or we can reinterpret. And it is important that we are able to love our younger self. I might call it younger self, or the child within you. But it's good to almost look into your own eyes when maybe nobody else was, and give yourself comfort and love without any conditions, so that you know that you deserve it, and you can bring that energy of being deserving of it forward with you. We all have the birthright to be loved without exception. And it's important that we reconnect with that birthright.
Absolutely. And I think from that point on, I was really led and guided to some more therapies that let me see why I actually detached from her so much, and what was really going on, and some of the things that I had to deal with as a child, which were not good. They were not healthy, and they were scary. Yeah. So it opened up a whole new avenue of healing too, and made me realize that actually, when I was led to understand my own condition, I had Crohn's disease, late diagnosis, my late 40s. And when I asked higher knowing why, I heard, because you were everybody else's coach and not your own. You didn't love yourself. And I was almost told, it's like I called myself Little D and Big D for a very long time. And I didn't realize what that actually meant.
Separation.
Yeah.
That's a real separation.
Yeah. And I didn't really understand what that meant until much later. So going back to our true or false.
Okay.
All right. So we want more Karen knowledge here and wisdom. Okay. It is fair to say that God exists, but perhaps not in the form or function that many people understand God to be.
I'm going to say true, and I did write an essay on this a few months back too. In my work, when I speak or when I coach or when I write books, I don't use the word God, simply because there are some embedded energies in it, positive or negative, but there's not a unified belief of what that term means. But yes, I do believe in the concept, and anybody that's interested, they can go to KarenGarvey.com and go to my writings page and see there's an essay called God, and I'll develop the idea there. But yes, I completely believe that there is a source of consciousness from which we are all born. We're all a spark of that consciousness. Therefore, we all are that consciousness.
So what would you call it? That source consciousness, or what would you?
I like the term all that is.
Yeah,
I oftentimes just use the word the universe, or the term the universe.
Actually, I hear all there is too. I hear that word as well. When I was writing the book, that kept coming into me. It's difficult to create phrases, though, especially if you're going to the public, because we spoke about it. It's very difficult to convey concepts without hurting someone's feelings or scaring them even.
Yes.
I know I scare my family all the time, regularly, as a matter of fact. But everything that I hear in my head and everything that I'm led and guided to reveal through higher knowing. And when I say reveal, it's because it's already there. But like you said, the door was closed, leads me to more love. So it can't be bad.
Oh, no doubt.
My born-again Christian siblings, want to think that maybe the devil's possessed me. But truth be told, I'm not going away from Jesus or going away from God or anything else. I'm just getting more in tune with some really beautiful energy that I know I can exude, and I can be like Jesus, the way they said Jesus was. I can literally help people heal or love more or create change in energy. And we know this from quantum physics now. We know that we can change we can change energy in a room just by walking in it.
Yeah, science does ultimately support what it is that we know when we discover it. There's no doubt. I like chaos theory for that reason too, because it does fundamentally let us understand that everything happens with purpose and that there's nothing random. And that helps us not to say that things happen to you because they're supposed to, but at least it helps you look at incidents in your life and say, if everything has purpose, what is the purpose within this happening? Mm-hmm. And then I can make value of it rather than struggle with it.
What we're really gleaning from each situation and how we can find the goodness in it no matter what went on. I think that goes back to that same statement that we were trying to make before, that we seemed like we were disagreeing, folks, but we really weren't. We're totally on the same page. And that's the next true or false. Quantum physics is proving that our physical and spiritual selves are truly connected as one and communicate on those levels whether we know it or not. right?
I completely believe that. And the more these discoveries are mainstream and they're taught and they're accepted, the more we will see that our concepts of spirituality and our concepts of science, there doesn't need to be a divide between them. They are partners. They're two different, maybe perhaps languages to the same truth and the same wisdom.
Yes, absolutely. Here's one that true or false that basically I think we might have answered, but I would love to elaborate on it. Our mental state of mind absolutely affects the future we walk into.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I have created a formula, and it's almost mathematical, that helps us to understand the creation of our own reality, our physical manifestations. And that is that what we think, what we feel, what we believe, add those together, and then the subsequent actions that we take based on what we think, when we feel, and we believe. That formula, you can pretend it doesn't exist, but ultimately our physical manifestation, our perception of reality is created by those happenings. Mm-hmm. So if we're not happy with what happens after the equal sign, what our life looks like, it's important to look at, well, what are we thinking about? What are we focusing on? What are we feeling? Feelings matter. You can feel a vibe when you feel good and happy and high, and you can feel a vibe when you feel afraid and reluctant. And what are we believing? Not just the tip of the tongue beliefs that we can say, but what goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Oftentimes what we were taught, limits that we were taught. Subsequent actions is always interesting because it's not action for action's sake, but inspired action helps us to put the energy of the formula into play in a meaningful and purposeful way without being abstract or wasting energy. So there's no doubt. The whole state of whatever it is that we are emitting, whatever we are projecting, our consciousness, our feelings, our beliefs, they all manifest into the experiences that we have on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, I was just thinking that I named the show The In-Between for many reasons, and this is one of them, because there is a state of being where we're not really truly human, we're not really truly soulful. We need to be in the in-between sometimes to realize we need to stop what we might be doing to get ourselves in trouble and tap into goodness, into what we really are. And so there is an in-between state, but there's also an in-between state that we put ourselves in between a heaven and hell. I'm going to make a true or false statement. There is no hell that we don't put ourselves into.
The concept of hell, as we might understand it from religion, I completely disbelieve. Mm-hmm. I do believe that we can create a hellish state on earth by separating from the vibration of love personally and globally. Mm-hmm. We have to remember when some concepts come through religion, a lot of religions have been manipulated too.
Just creating fear, and there's still some human interference there.
And fear is a very, let's say, effective tool for people to get others to control.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So you're listening to WCWP.org. I'm Donna Martini. I'm here with Karen Garvey, and we're having an amazing discussion. I want you to know if you want to tune in here. Do you feel an energy in this country? I know I feel it. I have certain comments to make about it for myself. I'd love to hear from you first, though. What do you think about what's going on right now, and where are we heading?
There's so much going on. Every year in January, I give a seminar called The Year Before Us. I've been doing it for 6 or 7 years now. And it's interesting because what it's designed to do is to give people the power of insight into what energies will be flowing in that year so that you can be with the tide instead of swimming against it. And each year, the guides give us valuable information to help us have our best outcome. But what is interesting this year is that I feel as though I'm getting quarterly updates on the energy that's affecting us globally, personally, and so on, meaning that we can really experience the process of accelerated enlightenment in real time. Acceleration means that it's happening more rapidly. So if I can't wait a whole year to update people on changes in energy anymore, that means that things are happening so quick and with purpose. So right now, double time, triple time. Yeah, we can think about it. Like I think everyone who's listening at this moment, you can say, I just took my 2017 calendar out, right? We just took the wrapper off, and all of a sudden, here we are. That's how fast things are going.
I thought it was just because we're getting older.
It used to be that way, but now I talk to people. I talk to high schoolers and people in their 20s, and they're all having the same experience because I'm going to talk about that at the year before us in January 2018 as well, why the perception of time is increasing so rapidly. But better than that, how to slow it back down personally. But one of the things is 9/11 kicked off an opportunity for people to come together in unity to one common goal, and to do so through loving actions and thoughts. We had that opportunity, and some people really aligned with it and made positive shifts in their priorities, their focus, and their actions. But obviously, one incident can't bring about a shift in everyone. So there have been lots of opportunities for discovery since then, since 9/11. And as those are happening across all sorts of different avenues. It could be weather, it could be crime, a shooter, it could be politics, whatever the opportunity is that's knocking on our door. We're still not waking up as rapidly as we have the capability of waking up.
What's really cool about what's going on, though, is that I keep hearing truth. We're going to see truth. We're seeing more and more truth. So Hollywood is losing its tinsel, with the current events that are going on there, and with all this stuff with Harry Weinstein, that gentleman who was caught doing, some pretty terrible things to women. And we understand now a little bit more about people's in governments, their intentions. And so there's a lot of stuff coming out that's sort of like bursting everyone's bubble of what they think, who's in control of the country and what's going on with the country. And my thing is, we all have to start realizing we are the people, and we can create an energy big enough to move everybody else that doesn't have the same intention to love and to have peace and to come together in unity.
Oh, there's no doubt. That's part of what the result is of enlightenment.
But what's cool about it is, though, that now that we see evidence coming in that people in Hollywood aren't all perfect, that everything they say isn't golden, that there may be they're all human, just like we are. So maybe we're not going to listen as much to them as we are our own intuition or our own knowingness, our own need to love, rather than to blame or fault or, contradict or whatever it is. And let's just come together and talk about what we really can talk about. And I see that energy shift of us. Maybe sometimes in some regards, we need to get worse before we get better. And I know that you don't like this idea of suffering, but it's not my thing. I'm just saying that some people...
It's actually true, but I just phrase it a little bit differently in a way that's a little bit more palatable. In order to have a discovery, many people have to experience more pain before they can reperceive things or listen to a different version of what's happening. So the point that I was making about the variety of tragedies or crises that are happening on Earth right now, it's not just one thing. It's not just weather. It's not just crime. It's not just
everything.
Hollywood. It's all across the board. And the variety allows everyone, wherever they are within their level of awareness, to find something that can help them to ignite the truth within them. This is not one size fits all anymore. It can't be just an act of terrorism or just a tsunami. Which
is why we're all calling for this. I mean, basically, soulfully, if we really are trying to unravel from the human self and all the stuff that we've had piled up over the years, then cumulatively we may actually be realizing this as the negativity is showing itself. And as we change our mind and what we want, and as it becomes more loving,
yes, exactly.
then it's going to change the current events.
We set our intention to live in the world that we want to live in, and we are willing to create it, then we get to experience that world that we want to live in.
Remind everybody, because it's the end of the show, where they can get in touch with you.
My website is KarenGarvey.com, happyand90thedigits.com, and also I have an organization called Piece It Together, and you can go to pieceittogether.info for more information there.
Great, and you can always get me at Donna@DonnaMartini.com, and we're going to end today. I'm so excited that you came on. Thank you so much for being on The In-Between.
It was great to be here.
Well, you're going to come on again, I hope.
It was great to have a chance to be here. It happened kind of fast, and we pulled it off.
Yes, well, till next time.